Today's teardown is on another 6.1 SRT8 engine. I try to buy every single one of these that I come across. It's just, these are very difficult to find. There's few and far between. I'm lucky to buy 3, maybe 4 a year. This is found in 5 to 10 Grand Cherokee, SRT8s, a 300C, Magnum, Charger, and Challenger. I have no idea what year this is out of or the story behind it. I do know it is supposed to be a rebuildable core, so that means there should be no major catastrophic damage, but I've also been told that before. It's not always the case. It's also supposed to be drained. We'll find that out too. Anyway, this gets started. Unfortunately, it's got no plugs in it, so we're going to go to step 2, which is now step 1, and we're going to start pulling valve covers. This particular engine has plastic valve covers, and they are broken. These bosses just get banged up, and I hardly ever get good metal valve covers. Everything seems to look okay at first glance, so that's good. No major issues yet. Let's go to the other side. Pretty much the same story on this side. I don't see any broken valve springs or anything that would lead me to think something is catastrophically wrong. Now let's get the rockers and push rods out. I don't see any damage yet. Let's go to the other side. This side looks pretty decent too. Let's pull this head off. So far, from what I can see, all the bores look nice. I don't see any damage to any of the pistons. This looks solid so far. And the head is the same way. I don't see any damage. It doesn't look like it ingested anything. Looks pretty good. Now we're going to pull the lifters and check those. Well, all the lifters and the lifter bores look nice. I don't see any signs of metal or anything. No major wear, no damage yet. Next, let's get the passenger head off. All right. This side also looks pretty good. There's a little bit of rust at the top edge of this cylinder here. I don't see any vertical scratches or gouges. No adjustable rods, I checked that. Now it's time to get the lifters out of this side. These lifters also look pretty good. I don't see any signs of roller failure. Everything looks okay so far. Next, we're going to pull the crank pulley and then the front timing cover. The harmonic puller I use is a OEM Tools. I don't know if it's necessarily better than anything else, but it has worked so far. Well, I had to say something, didn't I? I think that one's done. Huh. All right, let's give this a little tappy tap, huh? Make sure I got all the bolts out before I start banging on this thing. I think I got them all out at this point. Yahtzee. Ow! That bit me. At first glance, this all looks like it's pretty tidy. I don't see anything broken or abnormally worn. I don't see any signs of metal or anything. This looks good so far. Let's get this cam bolt out and we'll pull the cam out of this. It looks like I got to pull the oil pump off, get this plate out of the way. We're going to see if we can avoid that. Okay, there is one bolt down here, and I think I'm supposed to get that out. I got to get the oil pump out of the way to do that, but we're not going to do that because I don't play by the rules. Found the perfect wrench for this. Perfect. And it is a factory cam. Not as lucky as the last one. Or was that 2 ago? I can't remember. Factory cam, but it is in pretty dang good shape. Now it's time we pull the pan. Not even needed. Oh, this was looking suspiciously good until the pan came off. There's some chunkiness going on here. That is an unwelcome sight. I knew this was too good to be true. And sparkly stuff. It is. It's this metal paste. Yeah, something like go. We're gonna find out what. Let's go ahead and pull the pickup tray and windage. Pickup tray and windage? I'm dyslexic, what the hell? Slide the oil pump off. It's a little more on here than I thought it should be. The windage tray is the oil pan gasket on this. Let's take a look. Everything looks okay, but I'm noticing a lot of that, I'm going to call it bearing paste. I think that's in this area here. I don't see any Reynolds wrap bearing foil in here, but, oh, there's a problem. It looks like it's just that cylinder. And judging by the relatively small amount of debris in the pan, I bet that's the only one. So I bet you this thing had rod knock. Let's get these rods and pistons out and take a look at the crank. One through 6 look pretty good. Can't see any signs of damage. There's no grooving. Nothing's scored. Nothing's marked up. Nothing's chunking away. And then you get to 7. 7 doesn't look so hot on the 8 side of that journal. And then you get to 8. And this was halfway through the Reynolds wrap bearing foil making process. These are very thin. I'm surprised it didn't spin them. I mean, I am astounded that didn't happen. The rod actually looks okay, although I wouldn't trust it. There's probably a little bit of heat that went into it. I'll check it out a little bit closer at a later date. But these 7 look okay, so 7 rods and pistons, that's not too bad. All right, let's get this rear main seal plate out, and then we can start pulling the main caps. Okay, let's get the crank out. Well, these main bearings look okay. But then you get to the rear main bearing, and this pulled out with the crank. It didn't spin, but it is really chewed up, and there's some chunks of metal on the side. I knew there was going to be more to the story. Thankfully, the block looks okay in that area. That's a very expensive block. I mean, I think we get around $1,500 or so for a good block, and if that bearing was spun, that would greatly reduce the value of this block. And the crank has corresponding damage. It's not nearly as bad as where it chewed up a rod bearing, but it's still something that would need attention if that were the only damage. It is really hard to be bummed out about the crank when the block looks this good. These bores are beautiful. A little bit of a mark here, it's not bad. Same story on the other side. It looks great. Pretty happy with this outcome. That was a classic case of oil starvation and also a very easy teardown. I think it was caught relatively early. It was probably hammering and they shut it off, and that was the end of it. I've seen some that were run a lot longer until the engine seizes up. Thankfully, they shut it off. I think I've got a good block out of it, which is the most expensive component of one of those engines. The heads look good. I've got a good cam to sell, an oil pan, timing cover, and 6 rods and pistons. I'm not going to count the other 2 until I look at them closer. If you'd like to buy parts off of this engine, feel free to send us an email. I'm going to have our email in the video description. I really hope you enjoyed this teardown, and like always, I love all the comments, the feedback, the suggestions, and even when I'm corrected, and I will catch you on the next one.